Welcome back. We are talking to Coach Duvall from Wild Lake High School. Good evening, Coach.
Great to be here, Sabri.
Hey.
Doug, it's great to have you here, buddy.
Well, Scotty.
We go back a long ways, and we're so happy to have you here today talking with us.
I'm as excited as you guys are.
So,
It'll be fun.
could you tell me how you started in getting into high school, and how long have you been coaching?
Well, I started coaching in high school in 1972, but it's one of those things. I was fortunate in life that I knew just what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a high school football coach since I was in middle school, and fellow Frank Rhodes was a big impact on what I thought and how I did it and stuff. And grew up in a little city called Elk Ridge, and that's where Scotty came from. And so I knew Scott because of my younger brothers growing up. And got a chance to see all those guys. Going to high school, I went away to college and played, came back and took a year at the University of Maryland. Ralph Friedge and I were the GAs back then. And if you're not familiar with GA, it means you just run about and do whatever they tell you to do and try not to get in trouble.
You're the gopher.
Yeah, we were the gopher.
Yeah,
go after it. That's what GA stands for.
Oh,
So,
nice.
It was nice.
So Doug took a program that was brand new, Wild Lake High School, back in 1972. And if I remember correctly, Doug, the first teams you had was a JV.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So tell us about the experience getting these boys together, because Columbia back in 72 was a different sort of place.
Yeah, it was the rodeo, it was wild and woolly. I was at the University of Maryland. Ralph and I, they set us up to see a kid at Howard High School where I had played and where Scotty played. His name was Steve Brownlee, big old boy. Maryland signed him, so we came up and watched him, and they're playing this new school called Wild Lake, Howard is. And I thought, I've got to see what this looks like. Well, we walked in the stadium. Wild Lake had on yellow helmets.
Oh, wow.
Yellow jerseys.
Yeah, like bumblebees.
Yellow and yellow baseball socks with stripes around.
Oh, wow. That's
I
crazy.
looked at Ralph and go, this is going to be a massacre. And it was,
Yeah.
So we're driving home, and I say to Ralph, that could be the worst football team I've ever seen.
Wow.
And that's how life is. Next fall, I was coaching them.
So you have a little backstory to why you became the coach, because I don't think you were going somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
They were calling you into
There was another plan, and I had gone over to the Olympics in Munich, Germany. I didn't compete, but I went over and made sure some stuff was okay in Olympic Village, and for track federation. So anyway, I'm there. My mom pages me in Heathrow Airport at the Pan Am building because there was no other communication.
Back then.
My old high school coaches there said, Doug, we signed your name. He's from South Carolina to coach at Wild Lake High School. And I was looking in the phone going, oh my God.
It had the bumblebee uniform.
I'm thinking because he had gone there and he was a wonderful coach. And as I look back now, it was what I was born to do, to go into that situation. Because, at the time I was just coming off of I wasn't sure if I was a football coach or a hippie or what. I had all the stuff.
Coach Rhodes is a legend in basketball.
Oh yeah.
And he, his all his accolades are unbelievable for the state of Maryland and the Eastern Coast. But I know Doug's going to be a little upset. Doug is a legend too in the state of Maryland.
Oh, okay.
He's he's in the Hall of Fame of Maryland coaches.
Yeah.
Did you know that you was going to coach that long at the high school? Or you was kind of just
I told the principal when I came. I said, "Listen, I'm here for 2 years because I told Coach Rhodes I would come help him. After this, I'm out of here." Because I thought, I thought college coaching. I looked at it a little bit. I didn't really know what coaching was. I'd been the guy that coached a little bit, but you don't really know what coaching is until you're in it. 5, 6, 10 years before you really understand.
What get your feet right, your base and stuff.
You understand it's really not X's and O's. It's Jimmy and Joe. Can you build a program, and you don't know how close you get to the kids.
Right.
That's the difference between high school and college. You build men really in high school, where in college you sort of reward them. But for playing, if you're not performing, then you're out.
I know, that's crazy. Hey, that's the
in high school you don't have a next guy. He's not performing. You better teach him something.
Some of those years we were coaching, we were the next guy.
Oh, that's right.
So Sabri, I tell you, Doug and I go way back, as you know now, and the way I got into coaching I was at a picnic once, and Doug was cooking burgers and hot dogs.
Yeah.
And I think it was 1984,
Mm-hmm.
and it was it was our goddaughter's birthday, if I remember, communion
Yeah,
or something.
yeah,
that's
yeah.
right.
And Doug had remembered me from playing against him, because I
Oh.
played at Howard when he was the coach at Wild Lake.
Yeah. How'd you do against them?
That year we won. Go ahead, Doug. These are two different stories on how.
It's all good. It's all
You
good.
know-
There's the truth, and then there's his story. So,
Yeah, I took the job at Wild Lake. I had a great JV kids. I mean, just great kids. And I kept them close to me all the way through. And there was a coach ahead of me, and the school was new, and it just wasn't a very good program at the time. So we built it. And so my JV kids, when they got to be seniors, were the same age Scotty was. And I knew Scott growing up because he was best friends with my stepbrothers, the Lewis boys. So I got to see, Scotty and Mike Gal and all the way through. And I'm looking at him, and I thought to myself, if I ever coached in high school, they're the guys that coached,
Yeah.
So, but I take my group of hoodlums, and we get to be pretty good. By the time we're seniors, and Scotty's group's a senior, we were undefeated. So we're playing Scott, and he's 7-0, and whoever wins this game is going to go on to win the state championship.
Yeah.
And it was the first state championship in the state of Maryland back in '85. It was the first year.
Yeah.
And so we're playing, and Scott's really a good quarterback, and they've got really good players. And no, it's the truth. And I was just, the truth of it, I didn't know anything about
Look,
coaching.
somebody's over there blushing and stuff. But go ahead.
So I didn't know anything about coaching, really. I mean, I had played, I knew what, just like you, if you're a defensive lineman, you know what the guys next to you doing. What's a cover three? That's a three guys that are covering somebody, I guess. But that really was it. But I had great assistant coaches. And we were fortunate enough that we had a really good team, played Scott. We were back and forth during the game.
Yeah,
5,000 people.
Yes.
Oh,
This
wow.
is
Largest game
5,000
ever
people.
attended.
Yeah,
back in
yeah.
the-
That's a
I mean, they were
awesome crowd.
thick
Awesome
around
crowd.
the track. And
Yeah.
it was a great thing because it was old Howard County versus this.
That's one of the reasons I came with Doug. But we're going to take a break here. We'll be right back. We'd like to welcome you back to We're Talking Sports. We've got Coach Doug Duvall with us here today. We'd just like to take a moment to acknowledge the Kobe Bryant tragedy the other day.
Yes, the passing of Kobe Bryant and everybody else that was on the helicopter that happened a few days ago. Kobe Bryant, as we know, we've seen him growing up in front of our eyes, and we also have lost other loved ones and stuff in certain situations and stuff. So with little sadness and melancholy, it's very sad that a young person that we've seen grown before our eyes passed and stuff. So to everybody that lost somebody and to the family and friends, it's very sadness in the sports world today.
Very well spoken, Sabri. That's awesome. But we're going to get back here with Coach Duvall,
Okay.
and we're going to talk a little bit about Doug's later career when one Scott Swope came to help him out, and it was like the best thing that ever happened to me, coaching-wise. Doug taught me so much as a coach and as a person, and I actually call Doug my brother because he is he means a lot to me.
Remember, without Scott, there would not be no Coach Duvall. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. I think it's the other way around. But anyway, so Doug, when we were there, and once again, I know you're a humble individual, what is your record, or what was your record as a head coach?
Well, I
I know
think,
it's over 300 wins.
yeah, we won 308 or whatever, and lost
Who's
81.
counting? Who's
But,
counting?
the mark of our program really was the kids that we produced, what they've achieved, how they played together. We would have so much fun in practice.
Oh, yeah.
People go, how'd you deal with the parents? I go, I'd tell them the same jokes I told the kids. It was all good.
It was a different time a little bit, too.
Yeah. People,
That's right.
and what do? You come to somebody you just won the state championship. I don't think you're doing something right. I go, hey, you can have it next year if you want to do a better job. Come on out.
So to put some perspective on it, Sabri, so we won in 1985, and we'll tell a little story about that here in a minute, playing Allegheny.
Yeah.
We won in 90, 91, 92.
Oh, wow.
And then Howard County decided they're going to redo the school.
Yeah, Wild Lake.
And they closed the school down. We had to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, for
So
2
we had a
years.
tough couple of years coming back,
Right.
but we won it again in 97.
Yeah, it was good stuff.
So
yeah.
tell everybody
So
about
y'all was winning so much that they had to close y'all down to slow y'all
Basically,
down?
I think that's what they
I think
did, you know?
absolutely.
I was there. Because the school itself too, I mean, you know, Wild Lake High School at the time, we had a principal at the time, Don Matthews, and he said Wild Lake High School is the best school in the country. And we're going, the country? He didn't believe it, he said it. So away we went. I mean, it wasn't too much we played that we didn't win at, or
Yes.
you know, and the kids were all, you know, just, it was a time when there were struggles going on all over the place, you know, but Wild Lake High School was a place that was based on diversity.
Yes.
And
yes.
people said, well, what do you do about the fighting? And I said, every once in a while, we would have a girl fight, because that takes place in high school. We were not going to have...
It happened.
And you know what, every
It's
once in a
kids,
while,
it's
have a
high
boys
school,
fight.
yeah.
But we're not having a black-white boys fight.
Yeah,
That
I
was the
understand.
first thing that Doug
Yeah.
said. We said it in football practice. We
Yeah.
said it in health class, because
Yes.
we're setting the high water mark for how our world's going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See, I understand when, while coming up, we always sports and music, and as we were saying earlier, that's usually the great unifier and stuff, because instead of color and stuff like that, we just see each other as brothers and stuff. So you have to work together, you know, in order to, you know, make a team and stuff. So that's why color's never really the problem.
That's a great point, Sabri. And I know watching that movie from way back when, I forget what it was called, Remember the Titans?
Yes.
You know, looking at that time frame, that's about the same time frame that Howard was.
Right. Yeah.
And that was, I think, a lot different than what we had up in Columbia. Because like Coach says, my best friends were all black.
Yes.
You know, Lavelle McNutt, CJ, you know, and you didn't even see color.
Yeah.
You know, because we were, like you said, we're all brothers, we're all playing sports, we all
Yeah.
love each other. And to this day on Facebook, I get a lot of the players, and I know Coach does,
Yeah.
that we've had, that, you know, we talk to constantly
Yeah.
about the good old days and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I want you to tell you the story, though, because this is classic, about when we played Allegheny for the state championship and how good they were.
Yeah.
So,
They really could have been, Sabri, and I've seen high school football in the state of Maryland since, the early 60s, you know,
Yes,
because
yes.
I'm old. And Allegheny could have potentially been the best football team ever assembled in the state of Maryland, other than like St. Francis now, because it's assembled from all over the country.
Yes, yes.
But to have a homegrown football team, especially, you know, Western Maryland, the state of Maryland is like 4 different or 5 different places.
Yeah, I
Western
tell
Maryland is
everybody.
like West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and they take that football up there
Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah.
So Allegheny and Fort Hill have perennially been the powers, you know?
Yes,
And
yes.
so Allegheny had this team that came together that was very, very good, excellent, as a matter of fact. And so, you know, we worked our way through. We lost a couple games during the season, but we were fortunate to have made it in at 8-2.
Yes,
and in the
yes.
old days at 8-2, you usually just did not make it in.
Right.
Oh, wow, that was that good.
Oh, we-
the
we
competition was that good.
Well, there's just 4 teams in the
there were
league.
just 4 teams
Yeah.
until
Yeah.
85. So when we lost to Scott, we had a really good football team, and we sat home at 9-1.
Oh,
There
wow.
were 3 other years that we sat home at 9-1. So we were battling like crazy to expand to playoffs with our state athletic association. They finally expanded the playoffs and let us go. Instead of just 4 teams, 1 north, south, east, and west, they let us go to 18.
nice. Yeah.
So we snuck in the back door.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we just won in overtime, one of them, and we played some really good football teams to get there.
Right.
And so it turns out we're going to play this team, Allegheny, and nobody thought we would win.
Right.
Oh, really?
Nobody.
Oh,
Except
wow.
for the 40 kids and 7 coaches that we
Yeah,
had.
yeah.
I-
Because those kids had heart, that's why.
And, yeah, it was funny. So we met in the locker room at the University of Maryland before we went out and played. But, you know, Scotty did a great job coaching with us. You know, we could do a whole show on the Scott Swope, and was a great performer. Actually, I'll tell a little story after the Allegheny game. But Scott came and Mike Harrison. I had some great younger coaches, some older coaches, and so we go down and we're going to play at University of Maryland. So everybody's excited, and fortunately for us, God was excited too because he let it rain. I mean, did he let it rain?
The great equalizer. The great
Yeah, it was Buddy Field. Yes, sir, buddy. We've won some of our best games in the mud.
Yeah,
I don't know if we lost, but we ran wishbone.
Yeah.
You know, we break the bone motion and do all the different stuff.
That's the old Nebraska.
Yeah, but well, you know, it can't. A lot of people were running from Oklahoma all the way through, but
Yes.
ours was, you know, it really was a wishbone that day.
Yeah.
I just wish we could win this thing. And we just kept the ball out of our hands and kept hanging close, and before you know, we ended up winning the game. And they were so sure they were going to win that they had jackets on the box with state champions.
Oh,
they were handing
man.
out in the stadium. Yeah, they had to give them to the band.
That cocky.
I'm going to give you a break here. We're going to come back here in a minute and talk to some more. There's a couple more things I got to tell you.
Oh, I can't wait, man.
And we'll see you here in another minute.
All right. Well, welcome back. We was talking with Coach Duvall, and he was starting to get into Scotty's performance and stuff. Tell us about that.
Yeah, you go ahead with that. No.
Yeah, you got to watch out. People get even, you know.
That's why I wanted him to go first.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure about high school or if I wanted to coach in college, and I'd been at Maryland. I had like 3/4 of my master's degree done the first year, and I left. And when I left, I went to the high school, and I just went, you know, where they say it's hook, line, and sinker, lock, stock, and barrel, whatever. I mean, I coached anything I could coach to try and build spirit in high school, you know, whether it was girls gymnastics or whatever. They wanted a team, I'll do it, you know. I'll do it. So we had great fun with all that. And so after 10 years, the superintendent said to me, you need to think about being a principal.
Oh, wow.
And I thought to myself, that's the last thing in the world I'm thinking about being. But he was a good guy, and he was good to me.
Yeah.
And he said, so you got to go back and finish up the degree you're doing in physical education, the master's, and do one in administration. Well, I can't just say I didn't like school. I did like school, but at that point in my life, that's the last thing I wanted to do. I had a baby and a wife and house payments. And I said, well, sabbatical, and it pays half salary. He goes, yeah. I go, oh, that's not me. I want to get by right now. But anyway, he makes a great deal for me. I ended up doing it. So I go back to the University of Maryland. Bobby Ross came back, and Ralph was the line coach and all. And so I was sort of a smoke and fire guy. I could just sit around and watch what goes on and say, oh, that really looks good, you know. Whatever. They didn't pay attention anyway. But a guy called me on the phone, and the line coach for a semi-pro team in Maryland at the time was the Baltimore Eagles.
Oh, wow.
And they were really good. In fact, the year I coached, not because I helped, they won the national championship. Well, who ends up being the quarterback? But Scott Sloan. So I got to go and see what life was like on the other side. I'm telling you, it was wild and woolly practice. I mean, you had a bunch of really talented guys. You know, you would be, you know, you're a big, strong guy. So you'd just be one of the guys. You might be the smallest defensive lineman that I had. Oh my God, they were so talented. And, you know, it was different. They were all 25, 30, some of them, you know. And all so I say to my lineman the first time, listen, I'll meet you at, we were playing our game at Johns Hopkins. I'll meet you at Hopkins in the locker room. Just be down the end of the locker room on the right. So, you know, I'm there and I'm getting ready to go in, but I got all kind of stuff they say I got to do outside, like put up the markers, do all that stuff, because it's semi-pro football. No problem, I'll do that. So I go in the locker room, I'm walking down the end, you know, and I was in high school, in college in the 60s. I walked in, I go, somebody's smoking dope in here. Oh my God, they're college kids, they shouldn't even let them in the locker room. I'm walking down the hallway, and there's all my guys in there, passing the joint around. Wow, what are you guys doing? You know, Coach, we got working in like warehouses and building big wood. we got to get a little right before the
Yeah,
game. I
yeah,
go,
yeah.
whatever.
Passing
That's
the doobie
semi-pro
around,
football.
right.
So Scotty was the
Right.
quarterback of that. It was, I mean, they would do stuff like we're playing Binghamton, New York.
Binghamton.
Oh,
Late
wow.
in the game, they've got a great. It comes down to one of the best teams on the East Coast.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm on the sideline, and I'm not going to say Donnie's last name
No,
because I love the guy. He was a great coach for this kind of football.
Hell yeah.
We're getting ready to run a play. We're on about the 30. It's 3rd and 15 or something. He runs a little cross pattern fade. He's got a kid on the sideline. He shoves in. And he runs a fade down the sideline. He throws to him, and they all come running off. And I'm going, wait a second. So he goes semi-pro.
Yeah.
Just to add to that story, what would you say, and I know it's probably kind of hard to say, what would you say the hardest one we had? What would you say the hardest one we had?
Probably when we beat Damascus.
Okay.
Because of the Damascus football for years has been just a great football program. Fellow Al Thomas, who I consider to be one of the great football coaches of all time in our state. He, John Harbaugh, the Bob Malloy, those guys are in a class.
Yeah, I was just want to ask about Bob Malloy. How many times did you play against him in your career when you got to 300 wins and stuff? Did you think you was going to be that long in the
Well, once you get into it,
Right.
it becomes, I love teaching and coaching, and once you get into it, you just realize it's almost, it's an avocation, it's something that you couldn't, it becomes a part of you.
Because
So-
Bob passed you, right?
Yeah, Bob's a little older than I am.
Yeah,
He'll love
yeah.
hearing that.
Yeah.
But Bob was a great coach. We coached together. Larry Johnson, who's now the defensive line coach for Ohio State,
Yes.
was at Penn State. And great coach. He, Bob, and I, and a guy, Tim Ambrose, coached the Big 33 together. That's the only time Bob and I actually crossed paths.
Oh, really?
Because he was always in a 4A school or
Yes,
private
yes,
school,
yes.
and I was in Wild Lake, and we were 1A, 2A, or 3A.
Yes,
So
yes, yes.
we didn't cross paths with each other, but Bob and John Harbaugh and Al Thomas. So the most exciting one, to answer that question, Scotty, was when we beat Damascus in overtime up there. Great football game, just a great chess match.
You're there, but we want to get into what you're doing now. You got the All-Star game, the Big 33 coming up.
We have our Maryland State Football Coaches Association and the Pennsylvania Football Coaches Association play a game now called the Big 33.
Yes.
And it's going to be played on Memorial Day this weekend up in Hershey, Pennsylvania, this year. And it's going to be a great game. It's the best players, football players in the state of Maryland versus the best football players in Pennsylvania. And a side note, there's never been a Super Bowl played that hasn't had a player that played in that game on the field.
No, that's
And
tight.
Doug coached in 91, 90,
Yeah, I coached with Bob in
The head
85 and
coach.
then coached in 91.
right,
Yeah,
and head coach and beat him 18-0.
something like that.
And how many-
What was the first year that y'all started the?
84. It's our
Okay.
first year or 85 maybe it was, when we went and we played Pennsylvania for the first time. Because before that, they had played Texas, they played Ohio. One year they played a All-American team. The game is just a wonderful game, and it's just loaded with talent. If you love high school football, it's called the granddaddy of high school football. There'll be as much talent on that field as anywhere in the country, whether you go the All-American game, any of them. I mean, it is loaded with talent, great coaching, great tradition. It's really brought the state of Maryland and the state of Pennsylvania, the coaches together. So it's done a lot of good
Yeah, I
stuff.
was telling Scotty that the Big 33 game in mid-90s, two of our players from Bladensburg High School played. My brother and this guy named Ebenezer Ekubon.
Oh, yeah.
Ebenezer
Yeah.
Yeah. And Ebenezer played 10 years for the Dallas Cowboys, went to North Carolina and stuff like that. So I was told Scotty, I had an old book I wanted you to see, but I couldn't find it because it was so old. But so it was pretty, because it was a bunch of blue chip players.
Always blue chip players.
Yeah.
And this year even more so.
Yes.
Well, I tell you, we've had a great time here today.
Okay, so now I'm going to cut you for a minute.
Okay.
So that's what happens when I start counting you down, is that you cut yourself short. So I prefer not to. I prefer you trust me, okay? Because then you flow, and I know how much I need to get the half-hour show in.
Gotcha.
So right now, I'm talking for a minute, but I'll cut this out. We have 2 minutes. So what you can do now is say, Annie, finish what you were just saying before I cut you, and then just say, any last thoughts? And then when you see me do that, then when you see me do this, you know it's time to say
Because
goodbye.
I like to say bye to him while he's on.
Yeah, on stage.
okay.
So what you're gonna do is, when I say action, you can say, well, we've had a great time, any last thoughts? And let him talk until you see me do this.
Okay.
And when you see me do this, then take your time and say goodbye, but say
Okay.
goodbye, okay?
Do we need to say something about high school football?
Yeah,
Okay.
that could be.
That will be your last thoughts. Okay, now let me get back here before I do, because I've stopped myself, I have to count again. Okay, all right. And action?
So, any last thoughts on,
No, start with, well, we've had a great show. All right, and action?
And we had a great show.
Wait a minute. Action.
And we had a great show today talking to Coach Duvall, and while he was giving us a whole bunch of knowledge on the game and stuff. So, Coach, what is your thoughts on how high school football is today?
No, see, any last thoughts? You
Any
have
last-
to, yeah. When you say any last thoughts, you let him have his say, okay? So
Any
let's
last
do,
thoughts on?
no, stop, because everything we're talking is, I'm wasting time on the tape.
Yeah.
All right, so let me just have him do this,
No,
okay?
go ahead.
All right, so you're gonna say, well, we had a great show today, and, with the coach and whatever, and then any last thoughts, and then it's his thing.
okay.
All right, and action on, Scott?
So we've had a great time today talking to Coach Duvall.
Yeah, nice
Coach,
time.
it's great to have you here. Any last thoughts?
Well, I have my concern as I go around and talk about football. We were in a time where I think, it was the moms were really concerned about their child getting concussion. I understand that. Believe me, I understand it. But there were more people being concussed in cheerleading and soccer and all than there were in football. So we've got big concerns that I think as time goes by, the game's becoming safer. We've got a chance to tell the moms that football's not that dangerous compared to the other things that kids normally do. And so let's give it a real good chance. The game of football is such an experience that you can't duplicate it anywhere else.
Yes.
Now, I know Doug has also done some stuff with helmets that they're coming up with.
Yes.
Tell a little bit about that.
Well, there's just millions and millions of dollars being spent every year in research by the NFL, by private firms trying to come up with how do you really diagnose concussion, because it's not just football, it's every sport. But the helmets themselves today are so much safer than what the NFL played in the old days. They played in the same things you played in.
Yeah.
Those old McGregor, you might as well put a cardboard box on your head.
Or nothing.
Or
Yeah,
nothing.
yeah, they were hard.
But I know you showed me one time that has a sensor on it.
Yeah,
That
there's-
tells you.
And all the sports, whether it's hockey or whatever now, we're using technology finally in sport.
Yes.
And so it's really helping us analyze what kind of shock is given in different types of contact. And, I think that we're on the verge of coming up with a helmet that's really, really going to reduce any chance of risk. But believe me, if you watch little guy football, the little guys running around, nobody's getting hit. You know what I
Nobody's
mean?
banging
And
into
even in high school, if I think about the helmet never happens anymore.
Yeah,
And we've
yeah.
changed the game to be much safer.
If I'm not mistaken, isn't one of the NFL players, Sean Springs or somebody, is into the helmets also?
Oh, yeah, everybody is,
Yeah.
because it's gonna be $1 billion business.
And sometimes even us being old players, I be thinking about, the helmets and stuff, but maybe if better technique
Oh, yeah.
was coached other than, the
don't
launch.
stick your head right
You know what I'm saying? But
Keep your neck out of it. I know I have 3 or 4 different helmets. The first one I had was like these little leather straps that were inside.
yeah.
And then there was one that had a little bit better cushioning, the one I wore at Howard. Then I got one when I was playing the semi-pro, and I think I should have just not worn a helmet. But then when they decided I was pretty good, they gave me this real nice water. That was the thing back in the day, these water helmets. And now they have them, I know, at our school where you pump them up.
Yeah,
You have all kinds of air compression, things like that, and they're actually custom fit for the kids. So it's come so far. And like Doug
The
said,
evolution and stuff of helmets and stuff.
and now they also have flag leagues for the kids, so it's not just they're throwing them out there.
Yeah.
There's nothing in life you can replace that teaches young men and ladies now about the value of football, about teamwork, about loving the person that's in that huddle with you, irregardless of where they come from in life and what their beliefs are.
That's right.
And
Doug, I can't say enough about having you here today.
Thank you very much, Coach, for
Thank
coming
you.
through today, man.
And you've made my day. I know Sabrina had a chance to meet you. We'll see you all next time on We're Talking
We're talking
Sports.
sports.